Seeing My Buddha Nature by G. Rinpoche. Link in the description. I am a 22-year-old male around 102 kilograms. What I am about to tell you is my experience of using DMT for the first time. I took around 100 to 150 milligrams of DMT about a month ago. I have no clue as to what the exact dosage is because I eventually started eyeballing it, trying to take bigger dosages in my attempt to break through, which I believe was unsuccessful. My only other psychedelic experience is LSD, which I tripped heavily on around a year ago, but I stopped completely a couple months before this experience. I am writing this from memory, so all the details may not be 100% accurate. This trip happened about a month ago. I decided to try DMT for the first time because the guy I usually see had it and it tested clean. I also live in student accommodation and everyone had left for Christmas and I was the only one still there. So I had no one to bother me when I was tripping and to smell the DMT if I had smoked it in my room, which I did. It was the perfect opportunity. After I got the DMT, I went to my room, loaded up my bong with one layer of weed, one layer of DMT, and another layer of weed again. I was a bit nervous because it was my first time doing DMT, and most people say it is very intense. My mistake was loading up the cone piece with too much weed, which meant I couldn't hold in the hits for very long, so I ended up wasting most of the DMT. The first couple hits were nothing amazing. I got very slight open eye visuals, almost like taking LSD but lasting for a fraction of a second. After a while, I closed my eyes and that was where the real experience began. I believe what I saw was influenced by my religious/spiritual beliefs, research, and historical knowledge. I am interested in many different types of philosophy, mainly Buddhist philosophy and spirituality as of late, and also Western practices and ideas to do with the esoteric/spiritual. As for my religion, I am a Buddhist. I also like to study history, mainly ancient/medieval, Europe/Near East in particular. Many things I will describe relate to specific spiritual doctrines. Closing my eyes, I was transported to a Buddhist temple on the coast. Either side of the temple, I could see massive white cliffs stretching out to the horizon with ocean waves crashing against them. I was standing in the main courtyard of the temple. The closest looking thing to the courtyard I can describe was the ancient Greek theaters, with stairs going upwards surrounding a flat stage. On the stage were many avatars of Hindu gods dancing, as well as bodhisattvas, as well as different incarnations of the Buddha. Many monks dressed in orange robes were watching from the stairs. I then flew up into the sky and over the ocean. Hovering over the water was a massive wrathful deity. Out of this deity came a being of pure light in the shape of a man, which I knew was the spirit of Buddha, which I will just call the spirit from now on. Most of the information wasn't communicated to me, I just knew. The spirit and I also communicated telepathically and could change our forms at will, although we mostly kept our original forms. The spirit took me higher into the air and I could see the island which the temple was on from a bird's eye view, as well as other islands around it. The spirit told me I was going to see my past lives and flew me to a cold, forested island north of the temple island. I saw a clearing next to a stream in a pine forest with a large cave a few meters away. Out of that cave came a pale, hunched-over creature that walked on all fours, resembling a man. The closest thing that looked like a man was Gollum from Lord of the Rings. I saw it hobbling out of the cave, through the trees, and towards the stream. I knew this creature was me from one of my previous lives. The spirit then flew me upwards and toward the next life. We soon entered a medieval-style city. All of the buildings were multi-story, Tudor-style buildings. We stood in the large town square and walked around for a while. I then saw a beautiful woman brushing her hair in the sun, and I briefly stopped to look at her. I wanted to stay longer in this city. After a while, the spirit wanted me to leave to see the rest of my lives, but I refused to go. The spirit then cast dark clouds over the city, turning it from charming to almost sinister. The entire vibe shifted, and I left quickly with the spirit into the air. I was then transported into a large room of a French medieval castle. I knew that I was back during the medieval era, but I'm not sure on the exact date. At the head of the table sat the king, and surrounding the table were his closest nobles. When I saw one of the nobles, I knew that he was one of my distant ancestors, as well as one of my previous lives. I then left. I then arrived at an English forest during the Anglo-Saxon period. I saw two Anglo-Saxon warriors walking through the forest, wearing full chainmail, swords strapped to their sides and shields on their back. I knew that one of them was my ancestor, as well as one of my previous lives, much like the last place I had been to. I flew with the spirit into the sky again. This time we flew higher into the sky, out of the atmosphere and into Earth's orbit. Me and the spirit hovered looking down at Earth. The spirit then told me it wasn't a separate entity from myself and was my Buddha nature. It was the part of myself that contained the potential for my enlightenment, but hadn't been activated yet. After I was told this, the spirit disappeared. tired. The trip ended suddenly, as though I clicked my fingers and I was back to being completely sober. I don't know what to make of this experience, but overall I learned at least a bit more about myself and hopefully the nature of reality/consciousness. I hope you enjoyed this story. Please leave some comments below about your thoughts on this experience. I believe that sharing knowledge and experiences is the best way to finding your own path in life. Thank you for watching Psychedelic Roots.